Beth's already smiling because she knows. Next, I'm super excited to welcome Beth Graves. You know what? Beth has been in this sport also a really long time, so we can't make Aiden feel bad. But did get her Coach 1 last year. Super excited. I know she wants to progress through that. She's a wealth of information, tons of competition, so much belly and big way experience. So I'm super excited. Beth, she's going to talk about the in-air portion of skydiving. And Beth, it's all you.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, I got some thumbs. I'm going to do things a little bit differently. I'm going to talk a little bit. I'm going to share my screen and hopefully try to figure out the technology. So apologies in advance if I F it up. We're talking about Safety Day here. We've talked a lot about what we should and shouldn't do. And my presentation is perhaps a bit more shocking. We're going to cover some consequences to what happens if we do or don't do some of the things that we're talking about. And, you know, why we want to do those things. So I'm going to hit share screen.
And Beth, just a reminder, you can share your screen fine, but if you're going to play your video, just remember before you play it, there's a little thing on the bottom. It says optimize for video sharing. You'll see it, but just do that, then it won't be as sketchy.
I'll do my best. Well, the videos are pretty sketchy.
Sounds good.
Okay, so I'm going to rely on some verbal and visible cues. So can everybody see my title slide? I can see Dennis. So Dennis, give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Thank you. All right, we're going to also have some interactive activities, and I'm glad that Veronique was short on her presentation because I'll probably go long. So I hope the shepherd's crook doesn't come out. But we're going to spend our very brief time together talking about how to avoid injury and death in the air, specifically in the air. Brandon and Veronique talked about kind of on the ground and in the airplane. So we're going to talk about free fall. So the PIMS have some really great information. This slide's a little bit busy, I apologize. But the long and the short of it is the greatest danger for skydivers, other than impact with the ground, that is impact with each other or with each other's parachutes. We're also going to see later how our parachutes can try to kill us all on their own. So we're going to cover in no particular order because they are all intermingled, some of these ways that we can avoid mid-air collisions and catastrophic equipment failures. So I think next we have a poll. Yes, we're going to do a poll. So I don't know how to use polls in Zoom. So what I'm going to ask everybody to do is click on the chat button that's at the bottom of the screen. And I'm going to bring up a list of A through F, I think, and just go ahead and type your answer to the poll in the chat, but don't hit enter or send yet. Just type it in, but don't hit go until I tell you to go. So here's the question. What's the worst thing that can happen in free fall? A leg strap or chest strap comes undone, resulting in serious injury or death. Lose track of altitude, resulting in very low opening and unsafe landing, or worse, no opening at all. Free fall collision, resulting in serious injury or death to yourself and or others. Premature deployment, resulting in serious injury or death to yourself or others and or your equipment. Uncontrolled spin or tumbling, unconsciousness, injury, and or death. I feel like this presentation should probably be called and or death. F, complete shit show, resulting in all of the above. So everyone go ahead and type your answer in the chat and then ready, set, and press enter. We should see a little waterfall of answers. Ooh, look at them all. Oh, most everybody chose F. Oh, there's some C's. Excellent. I'm going to say there's no wrong answer, but maybe it's actually there's no right answer for this one. The answer basically is that any one of these things can happen during free fall, and every one of them is terrifying as hell and could change your life forever. So let's talk about what could cause some of these things. And I guess we don't have audio, so we'll do the same type of activity where we'll just get everybody to type answers in the chat. You don't have to, but if you have an answer, go ahead and type it in the chat. And I'm not going to cover all of them because equipment has been covered, and some of my presenter colleagues are going to do some of these other ones. But let's just pick one. Let's say losing track of altitude, number 2. It's kind of an easy one. But go ahead and type an answer in the chat of what you think we could do to avoid losing track of altitude. And if you're newer to the sport, please play along. And go ahead and press enter now. Audible. Use multiple audibles. Buy an Alti. Check your altimeter. Yeah, so quite a lot of references to the altimeter. I also have a creature after my attention. Practicing ground visual is a great suggestion as well. Train awareness. Whoever Julian Flemez is, I love your answer. That's perfect. Awareness, ground, altimeter, etc. Yeah, there's quite a few things, I think. Having an altimeter, of course, having an audible or 2 audibles. I would not recommend relying on your audible. I have seen a double audible malfunction resulting in 2 parachutes out at the same time, not my own. But proper maintenance of your visible and audible altimeter. Always pay attention to your altitude, even if you are dealing with a gear malfunction or some kind of an uncontrolled skydive. So using your tools, knowing how to use them, and maintaining them correctly, that kind of goes to what Aiden was talking about as well. Okay, let's do one more. What about number 3? What are some causes of a free fall collision? Go ahead and just type your answers into the chat, and you can press enter whenever you like, because it's not working very well for me. And go ahead and press enter. Go slow on an angle jump. Yes. Okay, now I've missed a whole bunch. Not paying attention, trying to do something. I'm sorry, I've lost it. Trying to do something that exceeds your skill level. Whoever said that, I love you too. Rushing to get into formation. Not being aware of other divers' locations. Going too slow on an angle jump. Oh, Andrew, I know you speak from experience. Going too fast on an angle jump could probably also cause a free fall collision. Mixed experience jumpers. Poorly planned jumps, inappropriate participants. Lack of control on approach. Undeveloped skill. Stress from a bad exit. These answers are amazing. And if we're not going to spend a lot of time here, unfortunately, because I don't have a lot of time, but these are all 100% accurate. So much can contribute to a free fall or a midair collision. It doesn't have to be in free fall. I think a lot of it boils down to unintentional movement. So moving up the line of flight into another group, backsliding, lack of directional control, lack of speed control. It's basically moving in a state that you're not aware of or not in control of will cause collisions, either with your group or with another group. Another thing, I didn't see it, but a crooked or wobbly track. We could track into somebody else, or a blind dive to a formation. Yeah, excellent. So the best way to avoid these, we're gonna move on, and we're gonna talk a little bit about the specific things that we can and can do and not do to try to avoid these painful events. Starting with know your limits. I think Brandon touched on this. It's really critical in the skydive, during the skydive, to know your limits and staying within them. And staying within your limits doesn't mean you don't get to try new things. It just means to stay in control and stay aware and be trained for what you're about to take on before jumping into it. I say walk before you run, aka follow before you lead. This applies to all skill levels. I'm not good at tracking on my back, for instance. So before I go and track on my back, or before I go and lead a track, I should get proper training on how to track on my back, and I should practice in smaller groups or even by myself. Nobody knows your abilities better than you do. And sometimes a more experienced skydiver might step in and offer you some advice. If that happens, please, give them some consideration. But generally speaking, you're the one who's going to be able to control getting on a jump that you're qualified for or not qualified for. Before you know it, you're going to be at a big DZ and a load organizer is going to be like, yay, we're 12 people. Let's go have some fun. So if you're not comfortable with the number of people or the type of jump that it is, you're the only one who can do anything about it. You can talk to the load organizer, talk about getting on something smaller or pull yourself off the load. Nobody's going to make fun of you if you give in if you just pull off the load. I was just thinking about what Brandon said about your mental capacity as well. Nobody's going to give you grief for doing the safe thing, because getting on a skydive that you're not capable of is dangerous for everybody, not just yourself. And again, to Brandon's point, knowing your limits doesn't necessarily only apply to your capabilities as a skydiver. It applies to whatever might be going on. Maybe you're tired or you're hungover or you're anxious or stressed. That goes into knowing your limits. Jump with others, but doesn't have to be a huge group. Start with smaller groups. Communicate with load organizers about what your abilities are, what your hesitations might be, and just get training. There's lots of coaches at all the drop zones that are represented here today. There's lots of coaches who would love to help and share their experience. Just get some training, get some coaching. It's available to you. The second thing I'll also touched on already is awareness. So altitude, obviously, we talked about it a little bit. Don't rely just on your ditters. Know your breakoff and deployment altitudes and know when they're approaching. On exit, you need to be aware of a lot of things on exit. Is there anything you need to know about the group that's ahead of you? Anything you need to know about the group behind you? Things like, is anybody pulling high, or is anybody going to be tracking for a long time? Large groups will track for further, will make greater distance, so you may need a longer separation. Be aware of your gear on climb out. Like Veronique said, you can snag a pilot chute, you can snag a hacky or a pouch even, you can snag a reserve or a cutaway handle. So look for snag hazards and look for other people's groping mitts too. Somebody else might deploy you by accident. Also be aware of your surroundings horizontally and vertically. You have to know where everyone is from your group. If you can't see someone, there's a good chance that person's about to try to kill you. With good awareness, you might also spot things that don't belong, like another group that might be too close to you in free fall, or somebody having a gear malfunction. Wingsuiters, you're not immune to this advice either. Make sure you clear your turns and look out for traffic. I learned about that when I was studying for this presentation, by the way, so now I'm an expert. Just kidding. But anyway, I'm told that wingsuits can have a huge blind spot, so be aware of that blind spot. I will cover ground references in a little bit. And then, of course, when it comes to tracking and deployment, it can't be stated enough. You have to look all around you. And I don't think I'm stepping on Dustin's toes, who's going to go next after me, but know where all the other bodies are when you're tracking so that you can avoid them. Have a break-off plan. For traditional free fall jumps, you're going to turn 180 degrees from the center of the formation, not from wherever it is that you happen to be. Wingsuiters and trackers, follow your predetermined break-off plan. And then during your track, you want to look left and right, down, all around. It's okay if you see other people. as long as they're a safe distance away and they're not closing in on you. And then just before deployment altitude, make sure you flare out, stop, and give a big wave. There could be somebody nearby that you didn't see, so the wave off is critical. It's a signal to them to get out of your way. And I put this picture for this particular slide because I think it's really indicative that things can go sideways on a skydive, no matter how careful you are, no matter how many jumps you have or how current you are. But everyone in this colossal funnel was fine. Everybody was fine because they were aware and in control. Most importantly, they're aware of what was going on above them, and they were aware of where their handles were. And finally, we have movement. So whether you're jumping as part of a group or solo, your movements must always be controlled and intentional. You have to be aware of the movement that is happening to you, forward, backward, sideways, every which way. And like was mentioned earlier, plan the dive and dive the plan. Do not change the plan after you've dirt dived it or mentally rehearsed it and mentally decided what you're going to do. This guy up here, he was not in our group. This is me and this is my hubby, Donnie, kiss, kiss. So this guy up here was not in our group. Turns out he had a great dive plan. But he made it through his dive plan really quickly, so he decided in mid-jump to improvise and practice tracking. Turns out the guy's a smoking tracker, but unfortunately he tracked right down the line of flight and right into the middle of our group. He arrived right at our own break-off time, so one of us had to take some evasive action, but luckily we did not have a collision. With a little more awareness, this could have been avoided. We had a good chat, this gentleman and I. And he's going to do things a little bit differently next time. I was going to have everybody call out what he could do differently, but we don't have any. Everybody's muted, so I'll just tell you. So obviously, he could have left a little bit more time between exits. And the biggest thing is he may not change his plan. He's not going to change his plan mid-jump. That's what we talked about. Be a bit more aware of what the jump run is. And so when he does go to practice tracking, he'll keep an eye on some ground references to ensure that he's tracking away from the line of flight. So remember, on tracking, the skydive isn't over when you turn your back on it. You're not safe until you have a fully inflated parachute. One other thing that happens before I move on is that I mentioned it earlier, even very experienced jumpers will sometimes track in a bit of a curve, and they're not tracking in a straight line. So it's really imperative that everybody tracks straight away from the formation and that you don't have a little built-in turn, because otherwise you could track right into somebody else. So use a point on the ground as a reference. And all right, we have one more waterfall type quiz, and then we'll get on to the videos. So I have a question. So same thing, you're going to type your answer in the chat, but don't press enter. And here is the quiz question. What are some gear-related hazards, specifically in free fall? So type in just one answer, and ready, set, go. Jumping with Dustin. I don't know if that's the answer to this quiz question. Losing spatial awareness, too little separation between exit groups. I think I'm in the wrong part of it. Oh, loose handle. Handles. Forgot your rig. Jay, that is an absolutely valid answer. Loose pilot chute. Main and reserve handles, handles, handles. There's lots of handles. Helmet comes off. Loose chest strap. No slider. That's a new one. Pilot chute not stowed properly. Zippers undo. Yes, very annoying. All right. So I had a few shoelaces come on. Yes, Dustin, tragic but true. So the big ones that I had noted: premature deployment, snags, of course, leg strap release, chest strap release, injuries, broken bones, back, femur, pelvis, for instance. Can't find your handles or your hacky. And also, you just sometimes, if it's gear, you can't fly or track as well. I'm probably way over here, but oh, I am too. Allison, give me a signal. Do we have time for a couple of quick videos?
Beth, you are doing fabulous, and I don't think any of us are going to complain with you going over a little bit. I have you actually down for 20 minutes, and you still have a minute and a half, so you are doing just fine.
Okay, thanks.
There's no time on safety.
Okay, who wants to see some videos that are absolutely horrific? Give me a thumbs up. All right.
And Beth,
I got a couple of thumbs.
Do you see the optimize little checkbox?
I'm going
when you go to share your video, it'll have a little thing underneath it, and it says optimize, and click a button or click a check.
I don't really know how to do that. I was just going to share it on my screen. Can I do that?
Yeah. So when you go to share it, there'll be a little thing that says optimize for best video thing. It'll be like right underneath in your Zoom.
Under my share screen.
Do you see it?
Okay, well, no.
Okay, well, we'll just hopefully it plays and it isn't bad choppiness. But usually there's just an optimize thing there, an optimize option.
It says also share system audio, but I'm not going to have audio, so we'll just play it. Hopefully it works. Okay, so this is a fairly scary, but everybody's fine, gear malfunction. Is it working okay for everybody? Okay. So this poor gal, and this is an older piece of gear, obviously, because it has those leg strap quick link things that most people don't jump with anymore. So an older piece of gear, but when the guy went in to take a grip on her, he released the leg strap on her. And maybe just as alarming is that she was not aware. She tracked off and she deployed completely unaware that she had a leg strap flapping around behind her. So that happened because the gear was, the gear didn't fit her properly. And of course it was older gear, and possibly, I mean, she was inexperienced. I'm not sure about him, but just something to be aware of with your gear. You know, accidents like that can happen, and you just need to be aware as the person taking the grip and the other person. Okay. Real quick one, just a free fall premature deployment. Oof. I want to just see the slow-mo if we can. This is the guy's own view of it. Do you see how many people are flying around and how dangerous this is when the main comes out with all those bodies flying around? No, we didn't need that view. Here's a better one. I'm going to give a disclaimer on this next one. And everybody's fine. The guy survives and everything, but this is the scariest video I've ever seen in my life. I've been skydiving for over 25 years. I've seen a lot of scary shit. This is the freakiest video I've ever seen. And yeah, it's scary. It's a couple minutes, but bear with me. This one is F, literally nothing good about this skydive. Oops, sorry. So same thing, look at all those people. They're all over the sky. We're going to get a slow-mo of it, which is what we really want to see. So this is his view. Ride's not over yet. Thank God he deployed as high as he did. Or he got deployed. The rig basically gets pulled right off his back, and he's lucky to have had anything over his head. I'm like having heart palpitations just watching it, and I've seen it about 25 times. So with that, I will call it a day.
Wow, Beth.
That's the end of my presentation.
That is a note to leave it on. I will probably get you to stop sharing your screen if that's okay. There, yep. Now we can see your face again. Holy cow, that was an amazing video. Also an amazing presentation. I appreciate that. A little bit hard sometimes when it's virtual as far as getting everyone engaged and going on, but you did great. We've got some applauses for you. Do I have anyone that has any questions for Beth? Again, you need to put in the reactions, do your raise hand. I just got thumbs up, hand claps. And
thanks, Dennis. Dennis is the only one I can see, so thanks for
no worries. Yeah, no.
Oh, and Leanne.
Lots going on there. Beth, I do not see any questions for you. I don't think there's any in what tour for the rig. What tour for the rig to become a hat? I think it literally just went over his head, did it not?
I think the lines came up underneath the one of the lift webs, and it looks like it either tore or it just pulled it up over his head. It's hard to tell. I can put the link into the chat if anybody wants to watch it again. Oh, Danny says the container was pulled off the harness. Yeah, I think that's essentially what happened.
Mm-hmm. And you know, it's a great. We have had somebody jump gear and do something that they shouldn't. A non-free fly gear. They were very specifically told it was non-free fly. They chose to do, and yeah, they had a premature deployment, and it ripped the half the reserve. So when they landed, fortunately they were safe, but the corner of the reserve, that what is it, the bag part of it, where the protection part was like halfway ripped open. It's very frightening. It's very, obviously very hard opening. So yeah, I'm very happy. We will go into more stuff about in-air collisions when we talk about AIMS, but Beth, fantastic presentation, and thank you.
Thanks. So I meant to say, it's just, he does go into at the end an explanation of what happened, but the couple of the videos were just to make sure you have the right gear for what you're doing. So he was on a stand. He confessed he didn't have the right gear. A lot of times it's just older gear because we can't afford to buy something brand new and custom built for what we want to do. But just keep in mind that if it's not free fly friendly, there's a reason for that.
Yeah, and I've been working with some experts in movement, specifically track and angle, and it's very important to have the right fitting gear for track and angle, especially angle, because it shifts, it moves. And so those are things to be really aware of. And Beth, you said it, like when you're getting into new disciplines, it's not just about the skydive itself, it's about all the gear attached to that. Because you know that what you use for a belly jump might not be what you need to use for a track or angle flying.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, Beth, I'm going to mute you. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm
And
you.
thank you.